Ladies and gentlemen, all right, the live shouldn't be starting just yet, but I've just seen Donald Trump and he's just said, we're in a trade war with China. I mean, could this guy put it any more clearly? After all these tariffs and everything that goes with it, he decides to turn around and say that we're now in a trade war with China. Quite frankly, is that a buying opportunity? Because when Trump speaks like that, investors are only going to assume that he's going to then run his mouth elsewhere and say, no, we're not in a trade war. Well, let's just park all of that to the side. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something really important on Bitcoin. And the reason being is because this chart right now is suggestive that things are looking good for Bitcoin. But we need to act when this one event happens in this index, for the better word. Historically, the index is pretty good at showing us how likely Bitcoin is going to rise. Now, given the week on Friday, we had all that madness with all the liquidations. The idea is, okay, yeah, a lot of people got liquidated. But with these tariffs, apparently 500%. That's what they want to try and drop on China. I mean, are you serious? It doesn't make sense. Trump's trying to make a point, and there's a lot of chess being played right now between Trump and China. And I'm guessing that by the time Donald Trump meets Xi Jinping, then that's when things will effectively start to get a little bit calmer. I'm going to break it all down for you guys. I mean, I'm just gobsmacked at that. It's just, he says here, it will take time to end India's oil purchases from Russia. Like the US is going in heavy. All right. You want to use the US as your main customer? Well, these are our terms. These are our conditions. Took some trades today, ladies and gentlemen, and it has been a whipsaw day, to say the least. NASDAQ was being very, very good today, but it was very tricky, to say the least. And I'm going to break that down to you all and explain to you exactly how I took these trades and the logic behind them so that you guys can take that and then go and do it yourselves. Is it a matter of you understanding it straight away? Well, if you're applying concepts of the hybrid system, then you're getting a head start. But of course, you need to see this happening over and over. And given that we are subject to macroeconomic data that can come out at any moment, I mean, everyone's been bloody talking today. No wonder price has just been going crazy. So I'm going to break it all down for you, and I'm going to talk about what you need to see happening on this one important chart to solidify the idea that Bitcoin is going to probably make a significant move. But we haven't had the event just yet. And when we marry up all the concepts together, you'll then leave this live saying, you know what? I understand what Tino's trying to say. I'll wait until that point. Because right now, you're not missing out on anything, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin hasn't even done absolutely anything today. It's just rolled over a little bit. Hasn't done nothing. And we got that glorious wick near the 102,000 zone. So let's just get with the program, guys, and break it all down for you. So Wall Street bounces after a 30-minute pause in rally. Okay, let me show you what it meant by the bounce. So let's just go and have a look at that. We're going to get to Bitcoin in a second, so anybody new passing through, stick around because I'm going to show you a very important chart. Why this chart right here is going to lead you into understanding why you shouldn't buy Bitcoin yet. So going into price action today, guys, the NASDAQ, I mean, it has been a treacherous day for NASDAQ. What happened? I'll show you my trades right here. So earlier on today, this is on Atta's platform. I enter on here because it copies my trades from Ninja Trader, and it's just a little bit more of a smoother platform. But you can see my entries. This was the S&P. So what I did earlier on was I tried to run some shorts on the S&P and on the NASDAQ right here. In the end, I had to close the trade because I could see that the momentum was still favoring higher prices. So then I closed off on this trade right here. Closed off on this trade right there. And then, of course, I exited. I tried to open some more shorts, but then I closed those shorts again. So it was costing me money trying to build shorts on this move. But then I looked to the chart and I said, hold on a second. We're currently printing a green vector candle. Wait till the green vector candle closes, because that's what I say all the time. I say to everyone in the Platinum membership, wait until the vector candle closes, wait until the hourly closes or the 4-hour, and then take your trade, which is exactly what I did. You look at the top here. I sold at the top side of 6,766, sold 2 lots. So there was 2 positions right there on the S&P. I practically caught the day's high. literally very, very close towards it. And we rode that move all the way down towards this area here, which we closed off our 2 lot sizes right there. Did exactly the same thing on the NASDAQ up here, ran the shorts on the top side of the range all the way down towards this area down here, left some on the table, but then I got a little bit excited. Why? Because I could see that there was a red vector candle that they were going to try and recover, and that was this range right here. So what had happened was price had come all the way down to this range. That's what I mean by leaving money on the table, and it had triggered the entry point that I gave earlier on in the Discord. Sorry, not in the Discord, but on the Platinum membership. Where was it? Here was my entry for the NASDAQ on the Platinum membership for this morning. And the idea was that we wanted to see it come down and trigger one of these 2 entry points. And it triggered this one right here at 24,673. We go over to it. You can see it just taps it right there, 24,663. Okay. Now, when I was running the shorts on the NASDAQ over here, I decided to say to myself, you know what? Let's open puts. So I started to play options at the same time. So when I took the trade and closed it off, we rode the move to the downside. That trade in itself, on the put side of the trade, we did really well again today, guys. Can't lie. But on the put side, when we opened earlier on, we netted around £37,149 on the options trade. So I'll just quickly so you guys, so you can see that it's not BS. But this is just playing options, 37,149. And then what we then did was we exploited NASDAQ twice. So we rode the shorts to the downside on the S&P and the NASDAQ, both positions there. And then we took a long at the lows right here. There was a long right there on the NASDAQ at the start of a new 4-hour candle. Buy 5 lots right there. And we closed off all the way up there, which left us with a day's gain overall on our personal account as well, around 11,435, which brings us to around 46,500 pounds for the day in trading this BS price action, which has been very difficult to take because you can just see they've gone up, they've gone down. So 45, 46K today, that's not bad, given that the circumstances of the market have been absolutely treacherous because there's been speakers, there's been all sorts of players coming to the charts, coming to the microphones and just speaking whatever nonsense they want to speak. But when Trump speaks, you have to pay attention. And given that he's just said that we're in a trade war with China, it looks like it doesn't matter because the market's not reacting. They would usually be moving right about now. The market is open. So, you spoke about your trading, Tino. Okay, cool. So what am I talking about with regards to Bitcoin? Check this out. You guys know I talk about this chart. And whenever I talk about it, I give you the idea of what it's really trying to say to you. This is the Coinbase Premium Index. Just hear me out with this, right? When it's green, the idea is that US retail investors are going over to Coinbase and buying Bitcoin. Okay, so when it's green, you can see that it's going up in prices. Okay, cool. Now, let's just look at this. When it's green, which is this area here, and the price is this white line, you're buying in these ranges, yeah? Cool. Look what happens when it goes to the red. You're buying the dips. This gives you the idea that when it's green, it means that US investors are buying. Retailers. They're going over to Coinbase and they're saying, please, 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 I want to buy Bitcoin. So they're buying it, right? When it stalls for too long in the green area, you then see price going down and down and down. And then when it turns red, that's when you buy. When it's red, that's when you buy. But what you've got to look for is you've got to look for price to correspond to it. You have to. Because when it turns red, as it's moving up, it's these little retraces, little spot purchases, all right, which people are buying the dip and they believe it's just a retrace. They're being trapped. Okay? There was some heavy buying inside of this range when Bitcoin's price dropped. And then when it come back up again, those guys equally sold. Okay? Now look at where we are with Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price is high. The green line is positive. Buy when this turns red. Because if retail traders are selling, who is buying? Just look at the chart. Just look at it. Look at all these people up here. There wasn't that much green buying inside of this range because it was rolling over. Okay? Look at every time Bitcoin dips into this range. Like, look at all this. Retailers weren't exactly buying too much, but it was all the negative. You buy when this turns red. That's all you need to do. Buy when the Coinbase Premium Index turns red. We haven't seen red for a little while. So that means we've got this euphoric sense. Everyone is long and holding on to Bitcoin. Okay? They're doing their hardest to hold on to it. When this thing turns red, that's when you start considering to buy Bitcoin, because the Coinbase Premium Index gives you the reverse. It says it at the bottom. Percentage difference between Coinbase Pro price USD pair and Binance pair. High premium values could indicate US investors' strong buying pressure in Coinbase. Strong buying pressure when price rises. They are selling it as it goes up. They buy it when it comes down. Someone wants to buy Bitcoin at $109,000 for $32 million. Logic would say if Bitcoin goes down to that price, then the Coinbase Premium Index would print red. Okay? If you were buying when the Coinbase Premium Index was red, okay, you would have then seen that as it was coming towards the lows, as it then turned back up, you would have caught the low right here on the peak of this red arrow right there. When the Coinbase Premium Index printed minus 0.092, and you were buying at that point because you'd be understanding that this chart tells you to buy when it's green. You buy when it's red. Okay? When it's red, you're capturing the lows. Look at that. Just go back and look at every dip. Look, you're buying in the red. Look at where you're buying. Yeah? If you're buying on the green, look at where you're buying. You were to buy, if we were to reverse the roles and say you buy when the green is at its highest, you would have been buying at the top side of that range there. This all the way up here. So you would have been buying at the price point of around 71,000. You would have then witnessed that whole drawdown all the way down towards 55,000. A 20K drawdown off buying off the idea that the Coinbase Premium Index tells you to buy when it's green. Right? Wait until this prints you a negative reading and it's a spike. That's when you pay attention. Because by that logic, price would have come down and you would have then seen dudes like this who are happy to buy $32 million worth of Bitcoin. A bag of them would be picked up. Lots of them. And you can see in the order flow. Look, go down here, 5 million at 105,000. Go down lower, you got another 32 million at 102,888. That would take us towards the full recovery of the wick. Please, you improve the odds of catching a good reversal on Bitcoin when the whole view of it is it's going down. This chart, do the opposite of it. Pay attention to when it spikes. The red spikes. You come to this chart and you see price at the 0.16. So look, if you had brought at the 0.16 point at the spike of that range, okay, on this Coinbase Premium Index, you would have caught yourself a nice little V-shaped reversal. And that would have been from 84,000 all the way up to what? Wait. What is it? Come on. Shit. What is it? What's that price point? 94,000. A 10K move on Bitcoin. Okay? Can't complain about that. Because you can appreciate that everyone right there was like, oh my God, it's dropping, it's dropping. Coinbase Premium Index says that it's going negative, so you don't buy. You would have been missing out on an opportunity right there. Just go back and look at this chart. I'll tell you what, screenshot it. Screenshot this chart and highlight each of the key areas where you see the red spiking. Those are your buying opportunities. So do not buy when it's green. You buy when it's red. And when you see it being red, look for a volatility spike when it's red, because you improve the odds massively in capturing at least a move because of the extreme that comes in on the index. If the index hits an extreme negatively, it means a lot of people are selling. Who's buying it? They're going to Coinbase and buying and selling. Just keep that in mind. I will reiterate that again and again and again. You buy when it's red. Don't wait for it to turn red and be like, we used them to buy on red. Bro, wait till it spikes. Wait till you see the volatility because it updates itself and it prints often. Okay? And it gives you enough time. You want to be buying all this BS right here? Fine. But when you see volatility, that's when you capture it. Look, even that little drop there on Friday's price action, yeah? When we saw the corrective move. That right there. No, that was May. Sorry. It's all the way over here. So, sorry. The lows here, yeah? If you were buying the lows, your lowest point was 115,000, okay? And as it will start to go up, it started to spike a little bit there, a little bit of volatility at the red right there, okay? Fucking hell, this is hard. So at 110,000, you would have bought that. You would have then seen the rally all the way up towards the all-time high of 124,000. If you came to here and saw that it was red, that's when you buy. And you can see it's a little bit volatile. There is a bit of a spike. Not the second, but there's a decent reading of it. Are we all on the same page? Are we all on the same page with this story, ladies and gentlemen? It's really, this is the story. BS this. Oh, my days. BS this. All right then, my bro. Anyways, that's what it says here. Bitcoin Coinbase Premium keeps Bitcoin above 110K. Will this level hold? Frankly, ladies and gentlemen, no, it won't. Because I will prove the point of that right here with this chart. You buy it when it's red. Come check me afterwards. Okay? Yeah, I'm putting myself on the line here. Cool. But we've spoke about this too many times. Have you got a real reason to be buying? No. Why? Because your money is all going here. Gold yet again. Silver yet again. Killing it. We've got a little problem as well. Has anyone ever heard of Erebor? You know who Erebor is? It's not even listed in the US stock market, ladies and gentlemen. And Trump-allied Erebor gains federal charter for crypto bank, shaking up stablecoin wars. We've got another candidate coming into the stablecoin space. Revolut, the bank, has recently had an IPO, or pending IPO as such. And of course, that bad boy wants to start doing its stablecoin. And people are betting for it right now. Revolut will launch its own stablecoin. I genuinely believe they will. Okay. But you can see here that it says the bank, backed by some of Silicon Valley's most prominent White House allies, now boasts a key advantage in the race to dominate emerging US stablecoin market. Now, they have actually got the charter. It says the first crypto bank to win a conditional federal charter under the Trump administration. Circle doesn't have one. Sony's on its way to have one. But you can appreciate that when Circle comes into play, there's going to be the benefit to that. Keep an eye out on this story of the Erebor crypto bank, guys. It's not listed on the stock market yet. Doesn't have it. No, it's a privately held company and is currently not publicly traded on any stock markets, including NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. So please keep that into consideration. Let's check in on this dude. Remember him? James Wynn. All right, James. Jimmy boy, what you got? So we opened along on Bitcoin, right? 34.18 Bitcoin, $4 million position, okay? Entry price was 113,274 with a liquidation of 110,330. Let's go and dive into the wallet. What a guy. So he's now halved his position. It's now 17 Bitcoin. Let's just have a look. 17 Bitcoin, minus $39,000 in loss. His liquidation is 109,980. Why does he play this Bepe coin all the time? Anyways, 109,970. Let's go and have a look at where that will put Bitcoin very, very shortly. 109,970. That will put us, what? 940. This guy, what's he going to do? 940. Ladies and gentlemen, it's literally there. Holy shoot. That's where it puts him. That's where it puts him. That's his liquidation. I mean, he's itching right now. What are the odds of Bitcoin coming back to that point? Just go to the order flow to understand that. They're ready for it. They actually are ready for it. Only some really good information right now will send Bitcoin up. And we've got Friday as well. Tomorrow, we don't really have anything to be too concerned about. It says here that we're going to get some information from Bank of Governor, Canadian governor, and you've got pound GDP, and then you've got an employment rate for Aussie. So it's pretty much a boring day. And there you go. All the shutdown data. We were due the PPI data, PPI data to come out. We're not getting that now. What a dead environment for news announcements in terms of economic data. So we're going in blind, basically. Okay? So cryptocurrency is just doing its own thing. Looking at it from the perspective of the daily chart, you can see that the candlestick is struggling. It really is. Trading below the 5 and 13 EMA. Gave you the heads up yesterday. As long as it stays beyond that point, the next candle will open, start recovering the wick. That's what they've done today. So James Wynn is probably going to get liquidated if Bitcoin can't reverse from this point. It needs to reverse from here to protect his position. Otherwise, he's going to want to reduce his size again just to expand on his liquidation, which is absolutely wild. You know? Well, what can I say, man? He got the hype a bit about it, but I mean, let's just go and have a look at the ETF just to put it into perspective. 2 hours ago, seen some more movement on the ETF. Let's just refresh this just in case. 107 is a key support. Stay above it or we're toast. Yeah, it's just mixed. A lot of mixed behavior on Bitcoin. A lot of mixed behavior. Going into the ETF balance seems all right. We're all right so far. Today's price change has been minus 1.16. 805,194. Looking at the open interest, again, it's not there. If the open interest isn't there, then that's it. When hair back, they said. Look, it's just no open interest. Just there is open interest, but not significant levels. And I'm looking for those significant levels. See, look, over here, this is the liquidation delta. And you've got quite a bit of liquidation points down here. So that puts us at the 130. No, it's not been updated. Let me just refresh this. Come on. 109,000. Okay, 108,450. Okay, it's the top left right there. There is a liquidation delta of around 4.1 million. And those are long liquidations, okay? Right now, we got the next cluster, which we've already had at 113,150. So they've eaten that cluster. And we're now trading towards this range right here at 111,332. So we can see that. And we are effectively, the next bout of volatility should take us towards this 103,400, which is where, 109,550, which is where you've got the $4 million worth of orders or liquidation delta in that range. I don't know why it's not letting me see it. Oh, there we go. All the way there. Just there. 4 million at 108,450, sorry. That's where the largest liquidation delta is visible in this range, okay? So it's going to be an interesting one for him. It really is. Hopefully someone says we're going to buy Bitcoin in the billions and Bitcoin's price shoots up. That's what we ideally want to be looking for. What do you think, Phil, if the US government shutdown doesn't get resolved until next year? Bitcoin price, gold prices? Look, gold, Bitcoin should have gone up. I think that this red vector candle right here, it's going to come back to it. The same way I said to you all that this red vector candle is going to come back to it. They're going to come back to that. Bitcoin's going to come back to it here. All right. You know that was the case. I said Bitcoin will be back to this. And we were saying that when Bitcoin was all the way down here. Okay. I'm saying exactly the same thing with this red vector candle here. It will come back to it. But what it needs to do is it needs to collect a few more things. It needs to just go to the shop and get a few more players interested. Like I said, on the Coinbase Premium Index, it identifies the activity of retail investors on Coinbase. We want to see it red. When it's red, we have a conversation about buying Bitcoin. When it's green, you then start buying it on there. Then you become the retail trader who buys when Bitcoin rises. Looking at the liquidations, you can see that we do have this liquidation at the 115,950. Hopefully that they can actually just quickly recover this wick that we've got and then start to pick up the liquidations on the way back up. But you've got a cluster of liquidations all the way down here, which takes us all the way down at the lightest area of 108,000. There is no reasons to why Bitcoin can't claim the 108,000. No reason for it. That'll be a valid spot. Come back into the recovery of the wick. Why? Because Ethereum near enough recovered the wick, the majority of it. That's good news. Solana, recovered it completely, but now it's coming back down. Is the idea on Solana giving us the drop, the retrace, the continuation to the downside? 800 EMA on Solana, $145.99. Not a bad price point for Solana. If you want it to go up, they need to buy it all. They need to pick it up. Right? That's the logic. Doesn't have to come back to it now. And quite frankly, because the priority of Wall Street is to hedge themselves and protect themselves, they're not using Bitcoin. They're probably shorting Bitcoin in futures, buying it on spot ETF, basically. That's what I think is going on. I actually believe that that's the case because when you got Wall Street in crypto, what do you expect? You think that they're just going to stick to the buy and hold? You think they're going to do the hodl strategy? The hodl? Wall Street's going to do the hodl? Nah, man. They ain't going to do that. Tino, how do you find this Coinbase Premium Index? You just go over to Crypto Quant, sign up to Crypto Quant, job done. That's where you are. I don't even need to sign up to it, I don't think. Hold on. Only 12% likes. Yeah, my likes on my stream are taking a shoe bag, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately. Only 200 likes. That's so dead. But in regards to the US government shutdown, we are on the 15th day. So technically, it's cost them $5.6 billion in loss of compensation for people who are not working. Okay. So that's, remember, that's 0.1 to 0.2% of the US GDP. When the last reading was projected at 3.3%, it came in at 3.8. So they've got a little bit of leeway to keep the US government shut. That's what they're going to keep it doing. They are going to keep it shut. Tino, dumb question. There's no dumb questions, my bro. I have longs on leverage for ETH. My liquidation point is 2,300. Am I safe? 2,300. That's where your liquidation point is. Are you safe? If you're going to go by the logic of vector candles, okay, you've got to be mindful that these are areas that price can effectively recover from. It can bounce from these zones. You're going to want to anticipate that if they do come down to this range, these are the ranges they could reverse from. It all depends on the news. So if we go into tonight and Trump says we are in a trade war with China, which is what he said, then that means if China continues to maintain its stance and it's just going to be a pain in the backside for Donald Trump, then that's just going to lead assets across the board even lower. You're going to want to anticipate that there is a possibility they could easily come down to the 3K mark if it starts to worry investors a lot. Because right now, the market has gone up only or stayed up only because of banks' earnings and, of course, optimism behind TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, and, of course, ASML Holdings. They've done really well. But now that we're out of the week itself, going into tomorrow and, of course, Friday, we don't really have any major heavyweights other than Procter & Gamble coming out with their earnings, or Pfizer, one of them. Okay, actually, let me tell you now. It is tomorrow, 16th. No. Sorry. TSM's tomorrow. Forgive me. TSM is tomorrow. Okay. Charles Schwab is the next one, and ISRG, Intuitive Surgical. So after Thursday, okay. Oh, sorry. On Friday, we just have American Express. So I'm not too concerned about anyone else other than American Express. So as long as the banks have been declaring good earnings, then that should, in principle, try and keep assets positive. Okay. But if Trump's got this beef with China, it's just going to force the market lower and force gold's price higher. And investors see crypto as high risk. That's the problem we've got. That's why everything's going down in crypto. Okay? We just need to finalize those wicks, ladies and gentlemen. Those wicks on Bitcoin need to get cleared. They have to get cleared because it's just sat there like a sore thumb. It needs to get done. Once they come and recover the majority of the wick, then okay, we can then say if this area is going to act as a point of interest, because look at how it taps into the green vector candle recovery point, doesn't fully recover it, but comes into that zone and reverses because the market's memory got triggered. If you were to draw a block, okay, across this and set limit orders at the high of the block and the low of the block, you would have been triggered and you would have caught that nice little retrace. That's what the block principle says. You use the vector block high and the vector block low as potential entry points, okay? So when I'm projecting price for the platinum members, we utilize that to understand if price is going to hold or not, okay? October. Well, technically, ladies and gentlemen, what day are we on today? Is today a down day or an up day? So what day are we on? Right now, we're on the 15th of October, okay? Technically, we should be negative trading today, okay? Based on 30 years of data, seasonality-wise, in October, the S&P 500 should be finished negative today, right? Go to the S&P, and you can see NASDAQ is up 0.75 for the day, and the S&P is up 0.43% for the day. Happy days. So it's gone beyond. Technically, it says that on the day of the 16th, we should be up. Tomorrow should be an up day based on historical data. I mean, it is a bit bold, but on the first day of October, we did well, and that's what happened. You know, the 1st of October, everything pumped, and we got the first day. Awesome. So as we're going halfway through the month, we're probably going to see a little bit of drawdown, then they're going to pick it back up again. Capiche? Mateus, I hope that answers your question, man. 111.30, 130, problem. All right, any questions, guys? Any questions? Tino, I have a question. Why the bonds market from Germany to Switzerland to the US has changed behavior since Silvergate in 2023? The big issue that we've got really, Priest, is the change that's happening with the European bonds from DB to CB. I've forgotten what it is. Basically, they're changing the requirement for banks to buy bonds, all right? And it basically says that they don't necessarily, well, if you're going to be buying bonds, you can't fall behind the fund's leverage as such. You can't fall on the support of the fund. You have to put up the backing to buy the bonds, all right? That effectively means that if I'm a hedge fund manager, if I want to buy US bonds, I can't rely on someone. I can't rely on something else. I have to pull up the funds to prove that I can back this purchase, right? So what does that mean? Well, you know what? Screw that. I'm not going to be buying European bonds. No chance. I'm not doing that. So what am I going to do? I'm going to pull nearly $2.2 trillion worth of bond money and go where? I'm going to go where I can put it with no requirement for collateral. US bond market, stock market. Okay? So that's really what you got to be paying attention to right now. And it's happening with Netherlands as one of the biggest purchaser of European bonds. It's changing massively. That's gonna free up $2 trillion into the marketplace. Again, everything's going to go back up. As long as the government stays shut in the US, everything goes up. As long as we've got interest rates coming down, everything's going to go up. Until we know the neutral path, the stance, where it finishes, that's when things will start to change. Till then, easing policy. All right, we've got a problem with inflation, but never mind. When do you feel we will get that pullback for gold? We won't. We're not. Not now.
Orders canceled.
Not now. Not at all. Because you've got 4,207. This is just going. Goldman Sachs price projection of 4,500 is not too far away. You will get some pullback, a little bit of a retrace, but you're not going to get a trending move to the downside. No. I gave you guys the heads up and said to you, they were consolidating, preparing for the next hedge. Okay? And that's what they did here. Just go back and watch a few live streams, ladies and gentlemen. We spoke about it. Now look at the result of it. It's just not stopped, man. Go back to a live stream that I did in... Yeah, go back to around the August time. August time, 1st of August, from there. I remember talking about it to you all. Yeah? Cool. Tina, do you think Bitcoin will go down from here, or will it retrace at 113,000, then first, then 98? Why are people talking that? Look, there is no fixed price point that Bitcoin has to go to prove anything. If we're going to look at supply and demand, where can we assume there's a lot of activity? Well, that's this range right here, okay? So we'll just get our lines and just go do what retail traders do. Mark off the lows, okay? Mark off the range. Mark off the range where the activity was at its highest. That's your vector candle range right there, okay? So you've got yourself a block, okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just do it like this for you to make it easier, okay? You got a block right there? Cool. This block, mark the price points. Just get rid of that. There you go. Buy Bitcoin when it hits that point. Yeah? Right now, they've tested this block and they succeeded it. Probably going to come back into it again. And if they fail that, they'll go down to the next block. Where's the next block? Next block is here. Vector block high. Vector block low. That's the next block. So the logic says, drop, it bounced. Oh. Buy, 20, 20, 40. Up she goes. That would be a perfect, healthy pullback. Most definitely. Most definitely. Easy. You can welcome that. Hopefully it can bounce from this range and go up. Hopefully. I'm expecting to come back to this vector. Doesn't have to come back to it straight away. Bitcoin moved away from this red vector candle and it didn't stop until, so it was the 15th of August. We're now the 15th of October. Okay? So nearly 2 months later, it come back into it. If you're on the premise of a draw, if you're on the idea of a bull market and you see that red vector, you're doing DCA in this range. Yeah? And then, of course, it makes the move to the upside. You sell it because you've hit your objective. Now it's going to come back down again. What do you think is going to happen? DCA keeps going lower, finding points of interest. All we're waiting for is Donald Trump to say, no more trade war with China. Zoop, everything goes up. That's what you're trading. Even with this Coinbase Premium Index. If it's negative, and the day it's negative, and then Trump turns around and says, China and US do not have a trade problem anymore, I bet you this is negative at that time, and then everything shoots up. That's my logic. That's my logic. Do you use open interest in Delta when you're trading your options and futures? No. Well, Delta, yes. I do use Delta. I use Delta in terms of the candlestick. Okay? So I just go down here and just look at Delta. Down there. Right? That's all I look at. And I have the depth of market over here. Most of my time, I'm paying attention to the depth of market. And I'm looking at where price is in relation to the vector candles. But as you can see here with the NASDAQ, when it was trading to the downside today, when I took the longs and when I took the shorts, okay? When I took the longs, I knew that NASDAQ was trading at the highs of the profile. But then when you look at that, you can see that you've got a green vector candle zone. And that's where I opened the shorts. I opened the shorts at the top side of this range. Saw a stop in volume candle 1, stop in volume candle 2, stop in volume candle 3. It's telling me that they're suppressing price. They're not allowing it to go further. And that's where I open the short at the top side of the range over here. Right there. Open the short at 25,099. Saw a little bit of a drawdown, spike, spike, spike. And then they rolled it over and we closed it all the way down towards that range down here at the 24,850 where we finished the actual trade on there. But when it comes to the options trade that I took, that options trade, so if you look at the options pricing, I opened at 87, closed at 87.4 on that one. So that was a dud trade. But opened at 87, closed at 104. And you can see that there was some pretty much break-even positions. But when we get into the actual positions themselves where we started to make money, we went to that 65 option, strike price, closed at 233. And we replicated that trade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. And then the rest of it was just smaller amounts where I was able to scalp it just a little bit. But the margin that was putting down for all of this was roughly around 25K margin to open all these positions up. Okay, which, yeah, okay, we did really well. But at the time, the reason why I had different positions is because I had to open the trades over here and I was monitoring them on this move to the downside. Okay. And then, of course, when you open the positions over here, it can be a little bit tedious because you have to wait for the order to fill and you're only limited to opening up to 100 contracts every 30 seconds. That's the issue that I've got. And equally, when I'm trying to close the position off, it only allows you to close 100 positions at every 30 seconds. It's just a pain in the ass. There is another platform I can use, which is the Pro Charts, but very tedious to use. So I'm just not used to it. But when I'm placing the options trades, I'm using this stuff here. So, yeah. So, for example, here's what I mean. So if I'm going to buy an option right now, right? Obviously, I'm not going to do that. But this is what I mean about the options being expensive. If I buy a put right now on the on the NASDAQ, right? 1 point costs me £118. Okay. Now I'm trading around 25 puts at a time for the average. So we go top side. Just to open that position, I need nearly £3,000. Okay. So that's what I do. I quickly open, and I have to wait until I pass the 30 seconds if I've opened too many at once. And that's what was going on today in my trade with these positions right here. But we caught a good move on NASDAQ, man. It paid us out really well, but I was just trading the logic of the vector. That's all it was. Extended move to the upside, go to the 1 hour time frame, red candle, green candle, red candle formation. And you can assume that when they do that, if there is strength in it, it will then reverse back up. But what had happened was the red vector candle surpassed the green vector candle. It should hold within the green vector to suggest the idea of going higher. But what they did was stop, move to the upside, swept the liquidity of the previous session Asia high, and then rolled it back down. And then that is a massive stop in volume candle, which could be a clue as to what we could get going into Asia tonight, guys. All right? Cool. When marking out your vectors, do you use the wicks or mainly for bodies? Always the bodies. Always the bodies. Any other questions? Why don't you get yourself a Bloomberg terminal? No limits on that. To be honest with you, why would I get a Bloomberg terminal? If I could speak to the brokers, then that's all the reason why I would get it. I would only buy the Bloomberg terminal if I could speak to the brokers. That's what it's for. It's for the chat facility to speak to the brokers. You go on there and be like, yo, man, you're not going to go on there and be like fair value gaps or I'm going to speak to vector candles and, and all that stuff. No. That's not the conversation those guys have on there. You've got the guys saying, all right, I got who wants pounds? Who wants pounds? 1.1.6, 30 million bid, sorry. Okay. Where you at? You just throw that in. I got it. Give it to me. Then you get on the phone, you blow, speak to each other. Okay, sale made, done. Back to the chat. There's none of this stuff. None of it. That's why you pay 25 grand a month for it, according to sources. But anyways, we just follow hybrid system. The vector candle saved me having to type shit out. Okay? With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that makes sense to you. Remember, Coinbase Premium Index. When it's red, you buy. With that being said, mad love and respect. And I'll speak to you all tomorrow. Peace.